hay una revolución en América Latina.
Pemandangan, suara, dan pengalaman dari bentuk seni unik dari Amerika datang dan hidup di American Jazz Museum. Museum yang terletak di daerah historik 18th and Vine Jazz District, Kansas City, Missouri ini menyimpan banyak dokumentasi perkembangan musik jazz. Musik jazz awalnya memang terlahir di New Orleans, tetapi berkembangnya musik ini ada di Kansas City. Musik jazz di Amerika memang berasal dari New Orleans, tapi di Kansas City punya ceritanya sendiri. Dan saat ini saya berada persis di depan The American Jazz Museum. Dan saya ingin tahu bagaimana histori dari musik jazz di Kansas City. Oke, pemirsa, saat ini saya sudah berada di dalam Jazz Museum dan saya bersama Greg di sini, CEO dari Jazz Museum ini, dan Greg akan menjelaskan lebih detail isi dari exhibit-exhibit yang ada di dalam sana. Okay, Greg, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Dindy.
Good. This is Indonesian people wants to know more about jazz music because in Indonesia, jazz music is like a famous music ever. So, would you
tell us about where you are?
Okay. So can you show us everything? I mean, it's like one of the exhibits.
Sure.
There's a historical.
Well, let's go. We're gonna take you down into the Jazz Masters Hall of Fame section.
Okay.
We're gonna show you the permanent exhibit space. We're gonna show you the John Baker Jazz Film Space, and we're gonna show you the Blue Room.
Okay.
So come on this way, guys.
Come on.
Okay.
Okay.
This section that we're in now sort of pays tribute to Charlie Parker.
Charlie Parker.
Charlie Parker was a son of Kansas City. He grew up in Kansas City, but he provided the world with an incredible style of music called bebop.
Bebop?
Yes,
wow.
Bebop.
What's that?
Well, bebop is a style of music that's when you're in Kansas City, you listen mostly to the blues.
Yeah.
Very danceable, kind of shuffle feel. Well, Charlie Parker and people like Max Roach and Bud Powell and Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Mingus, they helped to create a different style of jazz, much more up-tempo. Bop, right? That's bebop. It's taking the music a lot faster and creating a lot more improvisation.
Cool.
So Charlie Parker was an important figure in the development of the music and a very, very important son in Kansas City. Where you are now is in front of a very famous instrument called the Grafton saxophone. This saxophone, you notice, is a plastic saxophone. It's plastic because at the time it was created, there was a moratorium on building instruments with metal because of the war, of the Second World War.
Oh, yeah.
So many of the manufacturers had to use plastic to create these instruments. So this was a very unique horn in that was given to Charlie Parker to play at this world-famous concert in Canada, a place called Massey Hall. And this was a very important concert that really kind of helped to usher in the whole bebop tradition. And it was Charlie Parker who played this instrument and filled up the concert hall that the rest sort of became history. And there was a program that was created by then President Truman, who sent jazz artists as U.S. ambassadors to become sort of icons of promoting patriotism in the United States. And they used it through the popular music at the day, which was jazz. And Louis Armstrong was a very important ambassador of that, but he was also a very important ambassador of the music here in the United States. He was also someone who had a role in the civil rights movement. He did a lot of things behind the scenes, including writing financial support checks for the NAACP, which was the movement to help create change in the civil rights movement. When you hear people say, it was Louis Armstrong that was one of the original scat singers. Yeah.
It's called scat.
It's called scat. Scat singing.
Scat singing.
S-C-A-T. Scat singing.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a vocal improvisation that's embedded in the music. And Louis Armstrong was great with that. You know what else he did? He was a great star in TV and motion pictures. He was a real ambassador on the Golden Film as well.
Golden Film.
On the motion picture film. He was someone who starred in a lot of films because Hollywood in the day really embraced jazz. Jazz was a popular music, and so a lot of the great artists became stars on the big screen. And Louis Armstrong was certainly one of those.
Yes.
A lot of people today are still trying to sort of emulate the musical prowess of Louis Armstrong, but also the many social things that he did and his ambassadorship in terms of how he was as a great ambassador for the music. Duke Ellington was so important because he was considered royalty. And so his nickname, Duke, represents royalty, right? Yeah. He came from a family of means. He came from, meaning family of wealth. He was born with privileges, but he always loved jazz music. And he started out with a group, this picture I think is a great picture here. It's a 1924 photo of his first group that he created called the Washingtonians. And the Washingtonians was the precursor of the big band, the Duke Ellington Jazz Orchestra. So Duke Ellington was somebody who not only created this great big band of some of the world's most famous jazz musicians, but he created thousands of great jazz compositions. He was a composer, prolific composer, who wrote music for church as well as music for sacred life, so secular. So he wrote secular and sacred music. And he became probably one of the world's most noted composers, up there with people like Beethoven and Mozart. He's a very, very well-respected composer. Something else that was very important about Duke Ellington, how he got his start. He had an opportunity in the early days of his big band to perform either at the Cotton Club in New York or to take his band on tour. And he chose to play at the Cotton Club, which surprised a lot of people because they thought, well, why won't you take your band out on tour?
Yeah.
Well, he chose the Cotton Club because they were doing weekly radio broadcasts. And it was that opportunity with radio broadcasts that his band would be heard. They would have more visibility around the world. And so that got him, he was a very, very bright, he was an intelligent entrepreneur. And it was those kinds of decisions that made Duke Ellington, I think, a really world-famous jazz musician. He was also a part of the ambassadors, as was Louis Armstrong and was Ella Fitzgerald. So Duke Ellington is probably, he stands out in my mind as one of the most significant jazz artists of this century.